a story that Helen collected from Victoria Beach from A.B. Thorne. Never did find out what the A.B. stood for, but this is a story that she collected as she wondered about certain aspects of the story, and I kind of combined it to make a nice ending. At least I think it's nice. So it starts off in Victoria Beach, and I'm going to do it in first person. I'll tell you, we weren't drinking because we saw what we saw that night. It was a very hot day in July, and I had been away for the winter, and I came home to Victoria Beach, and, well, me and my friend Joe Holmes, well, we were catching up on all the news and everything, and he asked me to go down to the post office with him, which was just somebody's house down the road, so he could mail a letter. So we did. We went on down, and we were talking away, and before you know it, the post office had closed, and we were still standing there in front of it. So we decided just to go sit on a grassy knoll and do some more catching up. The next thing you know, it's 10 o'clock at night. There's the full moon out, beautiful summer night. It was just gorgeous for chatting and catching up. We watched the lights go out in the house ahead of the post office. It hadn't been out very long when we heard this noise. It sounded like somebody was hoeing in the turnip field behind the house. Who would be out at 10 o'clock at night hoeing in the field, we thought. And we looked towards the back of the house. And that's when we saw it. This thing came from out of the shadows behind the house. It was crawling and kind of loping on 4 feet. At least it looked like feet. We weren't sure what it was. Came to the corner of the house, looked up towards us, turned around, and went back behind the house again. We were kind of so shocked we didn't really say anything to each other. We just kept looking into the shadows. And sure enough, it came out again. Loping on 4 feet, it came up to the corner of the house, looked up towards us, turned around and went back. Did you see that? I said to Joe. He said, yeah, I did. What was it? Don't know. No sooner had we said that, went out from behind the corner of the house, it came again. This time, it went over to the apple tree in front of the house and disappeared into the shadowy trunk. And as we stared, the tree started to shake, and all those new little apples and the buds started falling down from the tree. I said, Joe, did you see that? Yeah, I said, Joe, I did. I think I'm going to go home. And I started off towards my house, and he started off towards his. And I said, wait a minute, I could have passed by the tree. I said, can I come to your house? And he said, yes, come on. And we started walking as fast as we could past that house. And then out from the shadows of the tree trunk came that thing, and it started loping towards us. Run, Joe! I said, run! And we started running. Now, Joe always had trouble running and doing any exercise. He was no good at that sort of thing. So I took off in a spurt, and I was far ahead of him. I looked back, and Joe was coming as fast as he could, and that thing was loping along behind him. Run, I said, run, Joe, run as fast as you can. I am, he said. And he ran, and we both ran till we got to the curve in the road. And we went around, as we're going around the curve, I looked back, and that thing had disappeared. It was gone. There was nothing there in the moonlight except the road. Well, we stopped in front of Joe's house for a minute, and we're out of breath. And I said, what was that thing? I don't know, said Joe, but I don't think it had anything to do with it. You know what, I said, someone's trying to play a trick on us. Someone's fooling with us. Let's go back and see what it really is. I don't know about that, said Joe. Oh, come on, we'll just go back. Someone's got to be pulling our leg. So we walked, not too fast, around the corner. And there we saw it, standing in the moonlight. Up on its 2 legs, just standing there, hunched over with its arms hanging down. Wasn't moving, wasn't saying, wasn't doing nothing. I just want to go up and see what it is, I said to Joe. And Joe said, no, I ain't moving, I'm not moving. I said, I just want to go a little closer. I don't know if you should do that. No, just a little bit closer. I just want to go a little bit closer. So I got to go a couple feet away from that thing. And I could see it. It had a skeletal skull, and the skin was pulled pale over the bones, and the hair was straggling down in little bits from its scalp. And it was all skin and bones itself. Its flesh looked like it was almost falling off. It had a white shirt that glowed in the moonlight, and a black suspenders over the front of that shirt, and black pants as black as midnight. And as I looked at it, its eyes were sunk into its skull, and I couldn't see anything except the blackness. I just want to see if it's real, I said to Joe. It's okay, said Joe. I took a step closer. Ah! It was Joe! He took off running, and I wasn't far behind him. And you know what? The thing is, Joe ran so fast that night, I could not catch up. He ran and he ran and he ran, and we just came around the corner when I looked behind me and I said, "Oh, Joe, run!" I said, "That thing is cutting off the corner and coming through the fields. It's going to beat us to your house. Run!" Well, I'd never run so fast in my life, and neither did Joe. We saw that thing coming across the fields, and we headed up the pathway, and we burst into the front door, and we slammed it. Well, that woke Joe's mother, and she came down to see what was going on. Well, we couldn't really hardly speak to explain to her what it was, and I said, "Out there, out there, out there." She opened the door, and we looked out, and there in the moonlight was that thing. But you see, there was an old stone wall, and on top of that old stone wall, there was this thin little piece of wood. Nobody really knew what it was there for, or it always had been there. But on top of that little thin piece of wood, there was the thing standing and staring at us. Now, there was a space between the thin piece of wood and the top of the wall. That's what this thing was standing on, and just staring at us in the moonlight. Joe's mother closed the door. She locked it tight. We told her what was going on, what had happened. And we swore, between all of us, we would never say a word to anybody about this. I stayed the night at Joe's, of course. And the next morning when I went out the door, and I went over to that wall, and no sign of any footprints or anything. And you know what? I looked at that thin piece of wood, and I touched it, and it fell apart. Not even a little tiny bird could have perched on that little piece of wood. So what was that thing? Well, time went on, a few months went past, and Joe got sick. He came down with tubercular throat, cancer of the throat, and it was painful. It was so very painful. He would wake up in the middle of the night, and he would scream out in pain. His mother and I and a few other people would sit with him. But this one night his mother was sitting with him when suddenly he sat up in bed, and he said, "Oh, it's gone!" as he clutched his throat. "The pain is gone!" The thing came and took it away. And he laid back down, and shortly after that, Joe passed away. Now, I went to the wake. Joe was all laid out there in the parlor, and there was a single light shining down on his coffin, down on the body. And I went and in private, I stood beside Joe, and I looked down at him. He was lying there. He was all skin and bones. Skin was hanging off him. His skin was pale and plastered to his face. He had long, scraggly hair, and his eye sockets were sunk in, even though his eyes were closed. The light on the wall shone on his white shirt and the black suspenders and the black pants. And I realized what I was looking at. Now, when Dr. Helen Creighton came to collect this story, I told her about this moonlit night and how I didn't really like going out on moonlit nights anymore. Because, well, you see, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of seeing it. I'm afraid of seeing the thing I'm afraid of seeing myself.